God grows the grass and it grows the cash, so he gets the glory. On my first property today, I was I was weed eating, finishing up the property, and a guy pulled up, and we got to talking and, trying to figure out stuff. And he was like, yeah, man, I'm kind of looking for work and this and that. It's like, oh, all right, in my mind, I'm not at the point where I'm necessarily looking for a quote-unquote employee, but from time to time, if an individual wants to work, I may use that individual for that day or so. Matter of fact, a while back, a guy contacted me, and he was like, yeah, man, I'm looking for work. I'm cold with the weed eat. I do this, do that, whoop-de-wop, whatever. I said, all right, man, meet me here this day, 7 in the morning, and, I'll give you 15 an hour. How's that sound? And he was like, yeah, 15 an hour, kind of expecting a little bit more, but how about, I'll let you see my work first, and then, we can kind of go from there. So I was like, all right, cool. So the next day I pull up at the property, I'm mowing, it's like 7. All right, he didn't come, he didn't show up. It's like 7:10, he still didn't show up. As cars were driving by, I'm sitting there thinking like, all right, maybe in one of these cars, and I realized, Morgan, he ain't coming, bro. You just finna do your whole route yourself. So about a month go by, the same guy reached back out to me again, and he was like, yeah, man, I'm just looking for a little bit of work. I said, man, wasn't you that one guy who called me that didn't show up? And he was like, yeah, man, that was me, my bad. I got this different opportunity, it was paying a little bit better, my fault, man. I should have told you that I wasn't gonna be able to make it, but whoop-de-wop. So he's like, yeah, man, but I just need to work a little bit this day, and if you want to work me, tomorrow I'll definitely be there, man. I was like, all right, well, what I can do is I look at my schedule and then kind of see what I got going on, and then send it to you if I'm able to allow you to work. And he was like, all right, cool. So I get home, look at my schedule. I was like, yeah, I can use them. It was a packed day. I think we had some rain or something, so I'm making up, running behind. I was like, yeah, I can use them. Sent to my address. And he's like, what time I need to be there? I was like, no, matter of fact, this time I said, I'm going to pick you up because he didn't have no vehicle. And he's like, yeah, you got to pick me up at this place or whatever. Like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'll pick you up. He's like, well, what time I need to be ready? I said, well, you need to be ready at 7. I'll give you a call before I'm on the way so you can, be ready. So I call him at 6:30. What you think happened? The number you have dialed, it went to his voicemail. So I'm like, all right, the dude got his phone off. So I text him, hey man, try to call you, phone off. Didn't hear from him that whole day. So he done burned that bridge. Now fast forward to today, I was mowing, like I said, weed eating. Guy came up looking for work. He was going to go do some scrap work. And I was like, all right, man, you can tag along with me today. And he told me, he was like, yeah, I'm pretty decent with everything around the weed eaters and stuff like that. He was like, I did it a little bit for when I worked for this other company. And the dude was like, yeah, man, I'm looking for work, and if you need me, just give me a call. I said, well, what's up? Let's do it right now. I said, let's get it done right now, baby. You looking for work? Work here now. He said, all right. He picked up that weed eater, got to working, did a decent job, went with me throughout my whole entire route today. So I had a flower bed, trimming, weed eating, or weeding, and then I did another yard. Matter of fact, we did 2 yards, and the dude did well. I mean, I know it's hot, it's brutal out here, but he hung in there. And it was almost like, obviously I believe God has his hand in everything. And in this situation, I brought extra water with me today that was frozen. And then one of my clients came out, so I've been mowing 1 yard for quite a while now. And I keep seeing this little ice chest over there, and I think on the top it says, take one or whatever. And I would see it and I just kind of ignore it because hey, I'm not going to take your stuff. But as we were finishing, the client walked out and said, hey, I got an ice chest up there with it, get what you need. So then I told Buddy, I said, hey man, go up there and get you some water and Powerades or whatever you may be. And the guy did pretty good. And I say all that to say, yeah, I could definitely use the help where I'm at. With some of my days, it's just I have to see what my mindset is going to be like, because my mind is telling me, Marcus, if you have help, then you're eating into your profit. And I know that's not the correct mindset to have, so I got to try to work through that.